that people start to cut their hair in the marwa. That is not the most clean thing to do. Go to the hotel. For the sisters, this much only on the hair. You can make your hair as one, and then you cut it, or you can braid it, but that much cut from the hair.
So the
for the brothers who are wanting to shave their hair completely in Hajj, you don't have to shave your hair completely. I know some of you have a job that requires to have hair. You can cut your hair, okay? If you want to cut your hair and then shave it later, you cut it in Umrah and shave it in Hajj. Also, you can use the machine to cut it, and then you can shave it in Hajj.
Yeah. So I'll try to repeat the questions before he answers, but that last question was about cutting your hair in the masjid after Sa'i, and it is not recommended. You want to leave that place as clean as possible, inshallah. I'll try to go left and right, so we're going to the left. I'll just start here.
For the stones, do you have to get them from the Tariqa, or can you get them from
the 7 one, she asked for the stone, you have to get them from Muzdalifah. The first 7 is recommended sunnah to get them from there. The rest you can get it actually from Mina, no problem.
There was a person who messaged on WhatsApp last week that Amazon delivered her stones. Muzdalifah is probably a better place to get them. Again, the question was, are all the stones required to be gone from Muzdalifah? Imam Majid covered it. 7 are recommended. The rest you can get from Mina.
Imam, could you elaborate on the tawaf? How many? So there's the first tawaf for Umrah. Then is there a second tawaf for Hajj, and then the tawaf al-Wada'? When do you do them? What's wajib?
Okay.
What must be done? What you can get away with? Just if you can elaborate on the number of tawafs and when. All that.
So the question is, how many tawafs are required as part of the process of Hajj? So we'll get Imam Majid to cover.
Yeah, the 3 tawafs. The tawaf of the Umrah for the Mutamatti. The second tawaf is tawaf of Hajj, and the third one is tawaf of Wada' as you live in Mecca. You can combine the last 2 if you are in hurry and live in Mecca. But tawaf al-Wada' is the last things a person does in Mecca is tawaf al-Wada'. آخر عهده بالبيت tawaf al-Wada'.
So I imagine the question here is, do you only cut hair after the Umrah tawaf and Sa'i, or even after the second tawaf?
No, only you cut your hair twice. You do tamattu. You cut it after the Umrah, and you cut it after the stoning. After that, there's no more cut of hair. One for Umrah, one for Hajj. Yes.
Imagine.
After Tawaf al-Ifada, can I stay in Mecca for that night, or I should go to Mina?
Yes. For people, he said, after Tawaf al-Ifada, can you stay in, you can spend the night in Mecca, or you go to Mina? Let me explain this from the Sharia perspective. If you follow, why am I using madhahib? Because people gonna have different people give you different opinion, different madhab. In Ahnaf, you don't have to spend the night in Mina. You have to come just through the Jamarat. You're gonna spend the night in the hotel if you want. The other madhahib said most of the night. You spend it where? You spend in Mina. And therefore, if you do Tawaf al-Ifada, spend the night in the hotel, according to the Hanafi madhab, you have no problem on you. But come back and stone next day, okay, for the second day, okay. I don't know if they provide a hotel while people in Mina, are they?
So your hotels are based on your packages. Some will have hotels shifting. Obviously, you will not have a hotel not shifting. You'll have a hotel in Mecca and so forth. So we're going to kind of simplify this. I'm going to step back to the last question, which was around haircuts. There's a brother, he has a question around, can you cut your own hair, and do you need wudu when you're starting ihram?
Okay, the two, let's take the one question at a time. When you are in ihram, there's 2 rak'ahs you pray. There's 2 rak'ahs. It's not necessarily 2 rak'ahs of ihram. Rasul prayed them. They said for safar. You pray the 2 rak'ahs of ihram. You don't have, the sister will not pray. They do ihram without praying. They start the niyyah, and therefore you don't have to have wudu to initiate the ihram. You are in the plane and you don't get to the bathroom to make wudu. You make the niyyah. It does not require wudu to initiate the ihram. And the second question about,
can you cut your own hair?
You can cut your own hair, because some people said, I'm in ihram, cannot cut my own hair. You can cut your own hair. You can do that.
Okay.
But you have somebody cutting the hair for you better. Rasulullah asked somebody to cut his hair.
Any other questions about hair cutting? Still have any questions about hair cutting? Yes, sister.
Is the length of hair that you cut for women the same both times?
Is the length of hair that you cut the same?
Yes, yes.
1 second, sir. If you're performing multiple umrahs, how do you deal with cutting your hair if you've already shaved your head?
Yeah, if you comply to multiple umrah, use the machine for those multiple umrah, and then keep the rest of the hair for Hajj.
So, I think that answers my question that I was about to ask. So, multiple umrah can be done after the first umrah?
Yeah.
Multiple umrahs.
But you have to go to the miqat in Mecca, which is Masjid Aisha. Yeah.
1 second, please.
I was told that they have to go somewhere else. Yes, question.
Do we have to, like when we go for Umrah outside of Hajj, we have to schedule our Rawda and our Umrah and those stuff we have?
That's the
We'll cover
logistic.
the logistics, inshallah.
The logistic, this guy.
About fiqh, you have Imam Majid here for about 5 more
The sisters, the 2 sisters. Yes, yeah.
Sister in the gray. Yes.
So now I'm just confused. Of course, we're going to pray every prayer on time in Medina or Makkah. But am I in situations, perhaps customs line, stuff like that, where I have to shop, combine prayers while do I consider myself as traveling?
In Mecca, you don't consider yourself traveling. Please pray after prayer, behind the Imam, and pray full prayer.
What about during transit?
In transit you can do. But you are in station in Mecca and Medina, don't combine the salah. Pray behind the Imam.
Airport delays, custom delays.
Again, that's not Makkah, that's airport. So
Yeah, in the airport, in transition,
everywhere else you want.
if you're traveling in transition, you can combine and shorten.
This is related to wudu and massage. So, if you're wearing socks and you're wearing faith and you don't have access to a lot of water, do you have to rewash your feet, or can you switch into your water and kind of go over it and just massage?
She's talking about masah on socks. Okay, listen. Because, again, I have to be transparent in the scholarship. It depends what kind of socks you have. Some scholars believe that you can wipe on socks. It's called lafaif. Other scholars, you have to have wipe on the leather socks. That you have wiped on that. But for the convenience and so forth, if the socks you wear is thick enough, you can wipe on that. In the opinion, Hanbali madhab. But the ability to have access to water sometimes is not, like in Muzdalifah, a long line waiting for you to make wudu. A person should make wudu as soon as they can and faster as they can. Other time I said make slow wudu, but bathrooms are online, wudu is online. We should have being courteous to the people behind us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. How many sides do we need to do for Hajj?
1.
Can you do it before Mina or after?
When you do the Umrah, you do the Tawaf and Sa'i. When you come back, you do Tawaf only.
Thank you.
So the question was Hajj Kiran, when and how many sa'is is with the Umrah. only one side.
Yeah, when you come back to the tawaf, then
Yes, sister.
I'm confused about the niyyah. We're arriving at Jeddah and then going to Medina. Do I do my niyyah, do Hajj Tamattu and Umrah in Medina, or I split the niyyah?
So when you're, logistics-wise, when you're leaving Medina, you will pass the miqat from Medina. There are 5 miqats, one from each direction entering into Mecca. So you will do your niyyah at the entrance point from your direction. So when you leave Medina, your group will stop at the miqat, and then you'll do your niyyah.
you make the niyyah.
Or for Hajj Tamattu?
You say نويت العمرة متمتعا بها إلى الحج. I made a niyyah for Umrah or tamattu until Hajj time. If you are going on the 8th of the Hijjah, you are going to make niyyah for Hajj because you probably don't have enough time. The Qiran, you do the Qiran. But if there's a gap between you coming from Medina and there's a gap, then you make Umrah. ونويت العمرة متمتعا بها للحج, make niyyah for Umrah until the Hajj time, and then in Hajj you make the niyyah for Hajj.
Now, we're going to make that the last question for you.
The last question because I have
He's
to go.
taking away from my time, so
Yeah.
at this point we'll
I have to
let him
go.
off.
Yes. Are you going to Hajj this year?
You allow me. Is there any different ruling on doing Hajj for yourself or doing on behalf of someone like parents? Is there any different niyyah?
Different niyyah for what?
If you don't have for someone else.
Yes. If you do Hajj for somebody else, you make the niyyah for that person. The first niyyah. You don't have to make a niyyah for every awaf and the initial. Okay. Jazakumullah khair. See you in Hajj, inshallah.
Exactly. Okay. So I'll say this after he leaves, but you want clarification on something, he said, I will be reckless enough. But at the end of the day, anything related to fiqh just walked out the door. So keep that in mind, inshallah. So we're going to get into logistics a little bit. Logistics is going to be vastly different for some of you. So when I answer questions, I will try to clarify the answer that, hey, if you're with Fifth Pillar Dar es Salaam, this is kind of what we're doing, or generally what is happening. So inshallah, keep that in mind as we answer the questions related to logistics, because it is a significant part of the stress that you're about to undertake as you start your journey. All of you, once again, at the end, will also see the QR code. Feel free to join the WhatsApp group. It is a WhatsApp group that kind of evolved after COVID because of the Nusuk system. Imam Majid and I were not traveling. This will be our first Hajj post-COVID, going back and leading. So we would just have a WhatsApp group and people would ask questions. So to have access to somebody like Imam Majid, no matter where you are, we encourage you to join the WhatsApp group so you can be ready for that. So let's get into logistics a little bit. We had people sign up when they came in, and tell us who their service providers were. And now, I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in the audience here, and I don't know about the stream, but in the audience here, there are people from 11 different service providers. Now, if you don't understand what a service provider is, when you log into Nusuk to purchase your package, if you are communicating with me for the fifth pillar, we very clearly told you guys, Imam Majid and I are going to be Abdul Latif Jameel Crown Plaza 1. Right? Abdul Latif Jameel is a service provider, Crown Plaza 1 was the package, and so forth. But then we also told you, if you can't get Abdul Latif Jameel, Dar es Salaam is also partnered with Al Raji, and so on and so forth, right? So those are the service providers. So keep that in mind, because no better way to say it, alhamdulillah, we have a process that we have defined. We have added layers of support and care and courtesy gifts. These gifts that you're going to get in the mail that are relative to the fifth pillar in Dar es Salaam in partnership with their service providers. So all of these service providers that you put on the list, you might not get, when I said earlier, if you're going with the fifth pillar of Dar es Salaam, all the men will get an ihram. I don't know. I can't answer the question what the other service providers are going to do. So that's kind of the baseline of how the logistics session is going to go. So what to pack and where to pack it, right? Yes, you're doing an international flight. The international, guidelines are 2 50-pound luggages, 1 carry-on, and a backpack. keep in mind, you have to lug this stuff around from here, and let's assume with the Medina first package, right? From here to your connection point to Medina, back onto a train or a bus to your hotel in Mecca. If you're in a shifting package, back onto a bus to Azizia, and then to Mina, and then back to your bus to come back to the airport. So ideally, pack the essentials. I'm not telling you, hey, 2 outfits, call it a day. Pack the essentials, but don't necessarily pack 2 50-pound bags, a backpack, and a carry-on. So keep that in mind. As far as essentials go, it is going to be hot. It is going to be hot. Probably 120 to 130. It is going to be hot. So pack accordingly. But pack what you're comfortable. I always pick on my dear brother Shahzad, who's been doing Hajj with me for 20 years. In 20 years, and he made a joke of this last year when he went to Umrah, because I keep picking on him, that he loves his flannel shirts and his jeans, and I've never seen him in anything besides that. Last year we go to Umrah, and he surprises me, and all he brings is thobes and shalwar kameez. I was like, cool, you're not going to be comfortable, Shahzad, because you like jeans and flannel shirts. So pack what you're comfortable in, pack clothing. This is not a place where you want to show up with like brand new shoes, brand new sandals, brand new shirts that you haven't put on and gotten comfortable with it. Dry fit, cooling, as base layers are great for the sisters. Abayas are phenomenal, but again, underneath of it, something dry fit, something light, something that will keep you cool, because it is going to be hot. For those of us who are already on the WhatsApp group, I think 2 weeks ago I shared Amazon had a special on a portable air conditioner that kind of hangs from your neck. This is an air conditioner, it's not a fan. If you put water in it, it really cools you down. So do whatever you need to do, but prepare for that. So pack accordingly. When you're not in Ihram, wear hats, use umbrellas, sunscreen, and everything else that goes along with it. But all of that, keep yourself hydrated. So generally, I am really bad about drinking water, but at Hajj, if you have a bottle like this, something convenient, take it with you. Alhamdulillah, your service providers, I know we will, have an abundance of coolers full of water and juices and sodas, and those oranges that Imam Majid talked about throughout Mina, Arafah, Muzdalifah, right? So those are the days where you'll have an abundance of stuff. So keep yourself hydrated. When you're walking from your hotel to just the Haram, doesn't matter if you're living in the clock tower. That walk there, you guys aren't used to that heat. You're not used to that crowd, so plan accordingly. Don't make the assumption, I just got to walk across this courtyard, I'll make it inside. More than likely, the Haram doors will be closed. You'll end up praying Dohar in the sun. You're going to come back and you're going to realize that, that floor Imam Majid talked about is the inner floor. The outer floor is hot. So all of these things are just common sense things that we overlook. And, we like to harp on them to make sure people plan accordingly. So the carry-on piece, right? When you're leaving the U.S., do not pack any of your medicines in your check-in bag. Don't even pack the extra ones. Every bit of medicine that you need for your journey, keep it closest to you when you travel. Because there's a possibility your check bag gets lost. And you took 1 day's worth of medicine in your carry-on, and you left 14 days of medicine in your check-in bag, and now you're without that medicine. Alhamdulillah, Saudi Arabia does have pharmacies. You can potentially get whatever you need there, but these are just some common sense things that we recommend. Your money, your passport, your identifications, keep them on you at all times, but always travel with copies of these things. Everybody should have a copy of their passport, not the full 30 pages of your passport, the front page of your passport, maybe a copy of the visa for Hajj, and any identification card, right? So have those things. Imam Majid did not get too much into this. A requirement of Hajj is that you do write your last will and testament, and you discuss it with the executors, and you leave it in a place where people can execute it. So inshallah, make sure you do that. If you don't have somebody you can leave your wealth to, I will give you my name, address, social security, everything. So we can cover that as well. So that's the packing piece of it. If you're going to Mecca first, not Jeddah to Medina to Mecca, if you're going to Mecca first, pack your ihram in your carry-on. You should have an ihram in your carry-on if you're going to Mecca first. So you're going to ask me, well, who wouldn't? Even people who travel with me, and I do I think we're at session number 15 for this Hajj so far, and we're going to do a lot more with Dar Salam. there's always somebody who shows up to the connection point and is walking to the plane, and 99.999% of the group is in white cloths and they're in jeans. And they're like, yeah, I didn't know that's what you meant. No, that's what I mean. If you're going to Mecca first, you're going to put on the ihram where, people? In the plane. You asked about 45 questions. You guys should know at this point. So you're going to put it on the plane, so make sure you have it in your carry-on. The other thing you want to have in your carry-on is any dua books. Yeah. So for the ihram, yes, the plane is uncomfortable to potentially change in, but the only flight that's likely going to arrive directly is Saudi Airlines. Every other flight, Qatar, Doha is going to go to Doha, Emirates is going to go to Dubai, Turkish is going to go to Istanbul. Those are like 2-hour layovers, right? I mean, 2-hour legs from there to your final destination. So inshallah, better to change your ihram there and then still do your niyyah when you get to the miqat. From the moment that you arrive to Dulles Airport, and I'm using Dulles Airport because we're in Virginia, I appreciate the branding of the fifth pillar. Dar es Salaam appreciates the branding of Dar es Salaam. But the moment you board that flight, the moment you land in Jeddah or Medina, the notion of Dar es Salaam and the fifth pillar does not exist for the officials in the airports. In the airport, if you're trying to figure out where to go, what to do, you have to refer to your service provider. So if you're with Abdul Latif Jamil, you come out into the airport, you go through immigration and customs, you have your luggage in your hand, and you don't know where to go next, you find a Saudi official. I am with Abdul Latif Jamil, where am I supposed to go? And they will direct you to where you need to go. Now, what's going to be happening at the airports in Mecca and Medina similarly?
Sorry, can we just ask everyone to remain calm, quiet, so people who are actually listening to the logistics parts can get all the information they need. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, if you're going to remain for the rest of the session, don't worry, there's plenty of stuff there. I might have caused a panic. So when you get to either of the airports, say Medina or Jeddah, and if you're in Jeddah, you're going to do your immigration and customs in Jeddah, even if you're flying into Medina after. But if you're flying into Medina first, doing immigration and customs there, when you walk out of the airport, you're going to be met by representatives. Obviously, we'll have teams there. We'll have signage there that says Dar es Salaam. There will be no signage there that says the fifth pillar. So we go service provider Dar es Salaam. We don't go any tiers below that for signage. But what you're going to be directed towards, if you ask an official, hey, I am with Abdul Latif Jamil, where am I supposed to go? They're going to say, okay, Abdul Latif Jamil, this is your line for the buses. Yes, that might be the line for the buses for Abdul Latif Jamil, but ideally, before you board any bus, ask the question, I am staying at Crown Plaza. Is this bus going to Crown Plaza? Because Abdul Latif Jamil might have other hotels as well. Al Burj might have other hotels as well. So the responsibility of making sure that you know how to communicate that is on you. So ask the question, get on the right buses. When you get to any part of this journey, going back to the luggage comment, there's nobody carrying your luggage, guys. So don't assume, I left it there, I thought Brother Sajjad was going to take care of it. No. So make sure you with your eyes witness your luggage is getting onto the bus. Or if that provider says, hey, this is a bus for people, this is the trolley for luggage, fine. Make sure your luggage makes it onto the trolley or onto the bus so that it arrives where it needs to arrive. So those are a couple of logistics things. When you get to your respective hotel, again, our team will be there. Abdul Latif Jamil, who I'm going to keep harping on as the example, their representatives will be there, and we're going to manage your check-in process. Now, you're not going to be checking into your hotels yourself. Your service provider will be checking you into the hotels. Now, the logistics of who am I roomed with? Am I with my family? We signed up for a triple. We're 3 people traveling. So 2 answers. Again, if you're with us, Dar es Salaam, fifth pillar, yes, we're going to coordinate all of that ahead of time. Last 2 years, from what I've heard from Nusuk, sometimes you show up and you're not with your family. And your service provider is there to help you with that. So if you're 3 people traveling, you purchased a triple occupancy package, yes, your service provider should put you in a triple room. Do they, don't they, is something that I can't answer to, but you'll have to deal with that as you get there. So inshallah, for us, we'll communicate all those things ahead of time. We'll tell you who your roommates are, and we'll try to do our best to make sure we don't confuse that. Therefore, every piece of movement that happens, right? So you're in Medina. There was a question about Nusuk and the Roda permits. Your service provider will let you know. As it stands today, everybody is responsible for getting their own permits. But obviously, 2.7 some million people coming for Hajj, the app, the permits, we are working with them to come up with better options, at least for the groups that we're taking, to say, can we have bulk permits so we can just hand them out to the Hajjaj in our group. But until that guideline changes, until your service provider tells you that they have secured a permit for the Roda, it's your responsibility to get the permit for the Roda. And I am hoping by the time Hajj comes around, the restriction and the permit requirement for Umrah is kind of lifted. But if it's not, it kind of becomes your responsibility, and coordinate that with your service providers. There was somebody raised their hand here.
So I was looking at Medina first, right? So from the airport to Medina, we get bus, or I can take like a taxi or a train or something?
So the question is, from the airport to the hotel, do I take a bus, train, whatever? Again, that's between you and your service provider. Whatever package you purchase will let you know what you're doing. And general piece of advice, you want to deviate from your package, that's up to you. But communicate that to someone, right? Because if I'm expecting 50 people on a bus, I will let those 49 people know who delayed us, right? Because we will keep waiting for you. Your service provider will keep waiting for you. We're going to put your picture on that windshield, so for the rest of the journey, they know you're the one who delayed us, because we kept waiting for you, but you took a taxi to the hotel. And ideally, I know GPS, phones, all these amenities make our life easier. Trust me, you don't want to get lost on your own. So whatever amount of time it is taking, and processing at the airport could take long, especially at Jeddah Airport. Absolute worst case scenario, plan for 8 to 10 hours at Jeddah Airport, right? And I give you the absolute worst case scenario because if it ends up being less than that, alhamdulillah, you're like, man, Sajjad didn't know what he was talking about. It didn't take us 10 hours. It took us 4.5. Great. But plan for that, right? And especially Jeddah Airport, Medina might be a lot easier to process out of, but majority of the Hujjaj that are coming in from around the world are going into Mecca, are going into Jeddah. Even if they're going to Medina, they're going through Jeddah. Most of our flights are going through Jeddah to the other destination. So the out processing, you can just imagine how long it takes. And, some of the realisticness of it and the jokes of it is, half of you will see shops at the airport like, ooh, let me go check this out. And then the group goes somewhere else. And, it's really hard to find somebody when I tell you I'm the guy in white. Right? And that's kind of what I'm going to tell you. Look for the guy in white. Because everybody will be in white. So control your urges unless you need something critical. Don't go off into the shops that are at the airport and focus on some of these things. Somebody had their hand up. Yes, sir.
I have a flight from Dubai, ultimately to Medina, but stopping in Jeddah. The Saudi airline flight going Dubai, Jeddah, and then ultimately Medina. So I guess all the processing can be done in Jeddah, or because the connection is 2 hours.
No, so I think the logistics of the connections and the customs, if you're landing in Jeddah and taking a separate flight to Medina or the train, then your customs immigration gets done in Jeddah. If the final destination of your original ticket is Medina, then your immigration and customs will get done in Medina. So, those are the movement things. So from there forward, again, we're doing Medina first. So from Medina back to Makkah hotel or to your building in Azizia, whatever your package allows for. From there to Mina, to Arafah, to Muzdalifah, back to Mina. And for the Tawaf-e Ifada, Tawaf-e Ziyarah, and all of those things, your service provider should let you know what's happening. Imam Majid was not joking. I make a lot of announcements at Hajj. This is all I do at Hajj. And as days goes on, as announcements go on, we get louder, we get more annoyed.
Question on where to get the ihram, like if we can buy it from here.
The question is about ihram.
You can buy it online. You should should order it right now, right? Before it is bombarded.
So we're going to do two things. Noor knows what's coming. One, we're going to pay better attention to what's being said on the mic. Nothing in this journey is going to go well for you if you guys don't pay attention. Right? So we talked about ihram. Your group providers will provide you ihram if you're Dar es Salaam fifth pillar. Otherwise, if you're going to Mecca first, please arrange for your ihram. If you're going to Medina first, buy it there. It's probably a third of the cost, if not less. So that's the rule on ihram. Now, where was I? I was on the buses, or did I move on from the buses? Yes, all of those movements that are happening, Mina to Arafat, Arafat to Muzdalifah, and so on and so forth, inshallah, please stick with your service provider. Stick with your buses. Look, Imam Majid was here, Imam Majid would say this as well. Yes, you will hear people say, well, the Prophet ﷺ walked. Right? Why aren't we walking? Well, he also took a camel the whole way there. Why are you taking a plane? Right? Imam Majid gives you better answers. I kind of give you the unfiltered answer. So I said that to say, inshallah, consider that 130 degree temperature. Consider the fact that you're probably going to get lost. Consider the fact that your health, your wealth, and so on and so forth. Stick with your service provider. If the bus is not moving for 4 hours, people, guess what? It's not moving for everyone. Right? You getting off that bus is not going to help anybody. And it's really not going to help you. I've been there too many times where people have left Mina, not because of a time constraint, but because they want to follow the sunnah, may Allah accept it from them, and say, we're going to walk to Arafah. And I kid you not, we are boarding the buses to leave Arafah to Muzdalifah, and they show up disheveled to the tent. They're like, oh my God, I found the tent. Got any food? No, you got to get on the bus. We're leaving from Muzdalifah. They walked the entire day, and they can't find the camps. Right? And at that point, your fight or flight senses kind of kick in, and you fail to realize you're actually within the boundary of Arafah. Might as well sit down, do some ibadah, but now you're terrified because mentally you're like, oh my God, I'm lost. I'm never going to find my way back home. I'm never going to find my way back to the fifth pillar. So you spend the whole day looking for the camp. And as Imam Majid said, Hajj is Arafah. And Imam Majid doesn't say it, the Hadith says it, right? So these are the reasons why we tell you to stick with the group. Yes, brother.
So, brother, if the package you have gets you on a bus from Jeddah to Medina, first, how long does it take average from your experience? And
Jeddah to Medina, absolutely no traffic, perfect condition, is a 4.5 to 5 hour drive. Absolutely no traffic, perfect conditions, 4.5 hours to 5. You can double that for Hajj, possibly.
Now, if you have health condition and you don't want to take a bus, will the trains be available? I mean, purchase on your own, or is it?
From what we have been told, train tickets are available. You can actually log into their website and purchase train tickets from Mecca to Medina or Jeddah to Medina and so forth. You can do that on your own now if you wanted to. But again, make sure that somebody within your group leadership understands not to expect you in the back.
From a service provider perspective, since they were going with Abdul Latif, the logistics is the same as what you're discussing, regardless of what group you're with, or is that going to vary as well? Like buses, transportation, things like that, is it like Abdul saying of Jamal, like with girls' umbrella, or is it with a group?
No, so everything is going to be done under the umbrella of Abdul Latif Jamil, Al-Burj, Al-Raji, whoever else, right? Communication there is not going to be done as the fifth pillar, as Dar es Salaam. It's going to be done Abdul Latif Jamil, Majal Kapsh, Abdul Latif Jamil, Muaysam, right? So we're going to break it, the fifth pillar, Dar es Salaam, we're going to break it down to that level. Your other service providers, inshallah, should do the same. But I can't guarantee what they're going to do. Yes, sister.
I have a Muslim flights to Saudi Airlines to Jeddah. Am I responsible for my way to Mecca first?
Who's your service provider? No, so once you get to Jeddah Airport, find your service provider. They will arrange the buses to your hotel.
Even if it's custom flight?
Even if it's custom flight. Now, the note on custom flights, we don't know what your custom flights are. Dar es Salaam has been sending so many messages saying, if you have a custom flight, please let us know what your custom flight is. So you have to let them know what your custom flight is, so we know that somebody's coming in at 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever time of the day. But our team will be at Jeddah Airport and at Medina Airport for probably 2 weeks. From the first to whatever Dhul Hijjah until the very last Hajj comes in. But even then, it's your responsibility to let us know when your custom flight is arriving. Perfect.
And then like our provider is Dar es Salaam. So what is the difference between Five-Pillar and Dar es Salaam? Is that the same thing?
We're affiliates. We're partners. Yes. All right, so moving on. So that's general arrival and departure logistics. Stick with your group. Keep in mind who your group providers are. Look, for when you're making copies of your passport and you're making copies of your identifications and your visa, print a copy of the package you purchased, right? It's not going to hurt. Are you going to need it? Probably not, but it's not going to hurt. So that's any other questions on arrival and departure before we go to passports? No. All right, passport logistics. How many of you are going to Saudi Arabia for Hajj for the first time? Okay, alhamdulillah. When you land at the airport, we're all Americans at this point. We love our passports. We're like attached to this thing. Like we don't want to let it go. It took us, I guess it was a lot of effort to get or something. Come on, people, we can laugh a little bit. Salom's laughing, that's good. When you land at the airport, you go through immigration and customs, they will take your passport. They're supposed to take your passport.
Who's they?
They, immigration and customs. So when you go through immigration and customs, there will be a Hajj ministry representative there. They will ask for your passport. You just give it to them. And then you spend the day of Arafat making dua that you... No, I'm just kidding. You give them your passport. It's our responsibility to keep track of your passport. We will get your passport back to you because you got to come back home, right? I don't know if Biden or Trump won. Can I go there? No. So it's our responsibility to get your passports back. It's the responsibility of your service providers to get your passport back. I'll tell you, this happens to me every single Hajj. I don't care if it's Medina, I don't care if it's Jeddah. There's that one brother or sister who comes up to me on the bus like, look. I'm like, oh, come on. And then I put their picture on the windshield so everybody can see who delayed us. No, people, leave your passports to the ministry. If they change the process, great. Alhamdulillah, hold on to your passport. Funny enough, the number of people that end up losing belongings at Hajj because they're not responsible enough, your passport's probably safer with them. But we have teams that are circling the passport authorities between Medina and Jeddah and Mecca, keeping track of. So with, again, Dar es Salaam fifth pillar, 2,850 Hujjaj. We are going to keep track of 2,850 Hujjaj. And we move them from point A to B to C. The general process is, if you're going to Medina first, they take your passport before you leave Medina. On the buses, once you get on the buses, your passports are returned to you. As you go through checkpoints arriving to Mecca, they will retake your passports. And similarly, we'll do the same exercise when we're leaving Mecca to go back to Jeddah for the airport. But it is the responsibility of the service providers to manage the passports. So don't freak out. Somebody's supposed to take your passport. And I always get this question, well, he didn't look official. He was just wearing a white thobe. They're all wearing a white thobe. Like, I don't know what people mean when they say, did he look official? They probably have a vest on. That's kind of the officialness that you're going to get to. So, but inshallah, keep in mind, they will take your passport. Yes, in the back. As of 2 seconds ago, you're going to see it back, Medina to Mecca departure, and then Mecca to Jeddah departure, assuming you're going Medina first. At every transition point, because remember, Medina is a different city, Mecca is a different city, you have to go through security checkpoints, so they will ask for your passports. And when I say you'll see it, it might be in a bag on the bus, because the bus driver is the authority at that point, right? As much as I like to tell myself I'm the authority, I am not. I'm just the guy on the bus with the mic. Any other questions on passports?
Yeah, what happens if we gave you the passport and we lose our passport?
You're not giving it to me, sir. You're giving it to the passport authority. And if, God forbid, you lose your passport, we called the U.S. consulate and we said, we found one of yours. please come take them. I mean, that's kind of the process. If, God forbid, your passport is lost, there is a consulate in Saudi Arabia, and you go through a normal process. But you're not giving me your passports. Anybody else? All right, moving on. Vaccinations, meningitis is required. Beyond that, consult your physician. For those of you that have been on the WhatsApp chat, there's been a lot of discussion around vaccinations. Ask your doctor. If your doctor tells you go get a COVID booster, then go get a COVID booster. If your doctor tells you go get a polio vaccine, whatever, go get it. That is between you and your doctor. If you're one of those people who doesn't do vaccinations, go to your doctor, get a letter that says for health reasons you are exempt from getting a vaccination. Crying in Jeddah about that is not going to help you. They are going to check for it. Meningitis is mandatory.
Just 3 days ago, it says repair, but is it recommended?
Meningitis is mandatory. Yeah, so when you get your vaccination, it doesn't matter where you get it, your doctor's office, Costco, CVS, Walmart, pharmacy, any place can administer it, but they should give you a record. That record should have your complete name on it and what they administered. Also make a copy of that, but generally, for convenience sake, we just recommend to people staple it to the last page of your passport. Yes?
So we can get an exemption for the meningitis?
Yeah, your doctor can give you an exemption for anything. I think there's a fee for everything, right? I'm just kidding.
Do you think that we had to give them a paper copy or we can show it from the
Well, I recommend paper copies. When dealing with Saudis and data connections and stuff, guys, don't rely on your cell phones. Bring paper copies. I mean, we all drive these V8s. We're killing plenty of trees. Now is not the time to stop for 4 sheets of paper. Somebody's pointing this way.
Yeah.
Oh, over there, sorry.
So the vaccination should be fine. Because I know some people talk about the vaccination card.
No, as anything, anything printed. I usually print mine in Google Docs. God, nobody caught on to that one. So, COVID is not a requirement, but again, if you have a booster card or something, bring it with you just in case. Now, as far as vaccinations go, whatever is required, and that's fine. Medications and medical conditions. It is probably a good idea, especially if you have a lot of medical conditions, to make yourself a medical ID card or something. Especially if you're allergic. Definitely let your group leader know if you're allergic to something. There was a sister in 2007 told me she was allergic to dust. Can't help you. That was a real complaint. You guys think I'm joking. She complained, why is Saudi Arabia so dusty? I was like, maybe because it's a desert. So satire is met with satire, people. But please make a card that kind of says what it is that you're allergic to and use the lanyard if you have to. So the good thing with these lanyards is the backside is blank. If you use a Sharpie, you can write on it. So, use it for what you can. Pre-trip preparations, we have already started recommending to people. We are... The books are one for family. So that's a warning that the lanyards are running out. We are expecting more to come. But inshallah, if you can take one per family at this point, that will make life easy. Hajj is extremely excruciating. It is a physical test of your body along with your mind and your spiritual side of things, right? So from a preparation standpoint, if you have not already, please start a walking routine. I think last week is when I recommended on the WhatsApp group that for the next 2 weeks, they should be doing 2 miles a day, and then 3 miles a day, then 4 miles a day, going up to 5 miles a day. The average person at Hajj, doesn't matter you're in the clock tower or wherever else you might be. The example of the clock tower is if you're in a Fitbit between coming to the 5 salahs and going back, and the stops at the shops and the ice cream places and the restaurants throughout the day, you're at about 10 to 11 miles a day. 10 to 11 miles of walking a day. Now compound that with the heat and the elbows to your ribs, and everything else, you can see takes a toll on your body. So please start physically preparing for Hajj because it will come in handy. And then when you're getting into Mina, Majanul Kabsh or Muaysam, you're walking to the Jamarat. Muaysam, you're walking a lot further to the Jamarat. And all of these things, this preparation will help you prepare for that. And I usually don't understand how do you spend 20 grand on a trip and then not prepare to come to that trip. So, just take that cautionary tale that you spent a lot of time and effort, to get to this point. At this point, if it's just walking, walk. And if that means you go to Dulles Town Center, which is a ghost town these days, and just walk, do it. Don't tell me it was raining and I couldn't go outside and walk. So pre-trip preparations is that. Money-wise, we generally recommend, about $500. If you're planning on doing a lot more shopping than that, that's between you and your spouse. Figure that out. But $500, $100 bills, crisp, clean $100 bills. The money exchanges, while there are many money exchanges available, they generally don't like converting if the dollar bill is old, meaning not the current style production, if it's ripped or if it has writing on it. I don't know why. Just make sure when you go to your bank, you get that. Beyond that, credit cards are accepted everywhere, especially the restaurants. They'll accept your credit card. But before you travel, you should let your credit card company know that, hey, I'm traveling to Saudi Arabia. You're going to see charges. So keep that in mind for money. Yes, sir.
Is it better to do the exchange here or over there?
More than likely, the conversion rate there is going to be better. So Saudi Arabia forever has had an agreement with the United States. So it's 3.75 to $1, right? Now you'll get between 3.7 and 3.75 because the person giving you the exchange is trying to make money as well. But that's kind of the standard rate. Is it more convenient to do it here and get 3.2, 3.3? That's between you and your bank account. So that's the money thing. Cell phones, make sure your cell phones are unlocked if you're planning on purchasing a SIM card there. If you're planning on purchasing a SIM card, make sure your cell phone is unlocked. An unlocked cell phone is not the 4-digit code you put on your phone and say it's unlocked. You have to call the carrier. And even if you're under contract, you can call your carriers and let them know that, hey, I'm traveling from this date to this date, and they'll give you a temporary unlock code for your phone. You cannot unlock your phones there. Nobody's going to be able to unlock your phones. Now, as far as SIM cards go, they're extremely complicated to get. You have to physically go to a reseller of SIM cards, and this is for physical SIM cards. You have to show them your passport. You won't have your passport. So I have a copy of the passport. They will take your fingerprints. They will issue you a SIM card. That is the process required for SIM cards. So hopefully your phone takes eSIMs. Most phones in the last 5 years of production take eSIMs. Very simple process. There's a bunch of apps. You can Google them now. Download the app on your phone, create an account, and be ready to go. And just purchase the eSIM. Otherwise, if you're not planning on calling your loved ones and checking in on them, perfectly fine as well. You don't need a SIM. You can use the internet in your hotel to check your emails and whatnot. WhatsApp calling is blocked in Saudi Arabia. So if you're planning on using WhatsApp calling from the hotel, it is blocked in Saudi Arabia. WhatsApp messaging is allowed. WhatsApp calling will not be allowed in Saudi Arabia.
But you can download, I was in Saudi Arabia, download the VPN, and then you can use WhatsApp.
You can do whatever technically you can do to circumvent the block of WhatsApp. That's up to you. But WhatsApp calling as a default is blocked in Saudi Arabia. So keep that in mind. So cell phones, once again, the physical SIM, yes, you can get it. You'll need a copy of your passport because your physical passport will be with the authorities. As group leaders, for instance, my job is to make sure somebody comes to me. I either take them or I direct them to where they can go to get a SIM card. But it will require a copy of your passport, your fingerprints, and some personal details for them to issue your passport. And if you thought Americans were sensitive about holding on to their passports, they get really freaked out when Saudi asks for their fingerprints. Like, why do they want my fingerprints? They want my biometrics. Dude, they already have your biometrics. That machine's probably not even hooked up to anything. They have your biometrics. Don't worry about it.
Do you really need a local SIM card, or it's just...
It depends if you're planning on calling locally or your family back home. Ideally, if you're T-Mobile, T-Mobile has an international plan, roaming plan, that's part of your plans. It works really well in Saudi Arabia. And every other provider, I think AT&T has an international plan you can enable for $15, and Verizon has something similar. Ideally, you just do that because it makes, if you get a local SIM card there, it's easy for you, it's difficult for your family because then they have to call a Saudi number. If you just get the international plan from the US, your family can just pick up the phone and dial 703 something or 571, whatever your phone number is. So for them, life becomes a lot easier. So it's really up to you. And the last thing, the last will and testament, Imam Majid was going to cover this, but in the rush of it, it is a requirement of Hajj. We highly encourage you to document, your last will and testament. ISNA on their website has a template if you want to use a template. If you go to the Fifth Pillar website, we have links to other online resources where you pay a $12 fee or something, and then they walk you through the process. How complicated you get in your last will and testament is totally up to you, but it is something that should be taken seriously because it is a requirement of Hajj. It shouldn't just be, I wrote it in the back of a napkin and told my 5-year-old, which mattress has the money. No, take it seriously, put your details in there, assign an executor, do all of those things, inshallah. Somebody had their hand up. Yes, sir.
I guess aside from the East End, is there Wi-Fi access in the Mina camps to call? Or?
No, Mina camps do not have Wi-Fi access. Imam Majid, usually has a joke, you're just directly connected to Allah, focus on it. Mina does not have Wi-Fi access, but you can, if you really need to, again, at those same places where you're getting physical SIM cards, you can also pick up a hotspot if you need to.
About the will, I have reviewed some of the wills, those are very complicated. So is there any service provided by Adams to that?
I don't think Adams provides legal services, but some of us stay at a Holiday Inn once in a blue moon, so we can give you the advice.
Or can I make changes to that?
It's your will. Do what you gotta do, man.
All right, okay. That's
Unless you're leaving me something, you do whatever you want to do with it. Again, this is one place I'll give you my Social Security number, people.
We can talk about it. I'll get your Social Security.
Inshallah. So, look, going back to the general logistics theme of it, right? You have signed up for Hajj with a service provider, heavily rely on that service provider. As Imam Majid mentioned earlier, be patient with the process. If your process has taken 8 hours, trust you, me, it's taken everybody 8 hours, right? Look around for a second, and if nothing else, everybody asks me, Sajjad, you've done Hajj so many times, what's different? Which one was different? 20 years, 20 different Hajjs, right? Every single one is different. Why? Because humanity is different. But you really have to observe that humanity to see, man, I'm going through this, what are they going through? I'm losing my patience. Why isn't he losing his patience? Why is Sajjad sleeping so peacefully? We're yelling at him. Right? Sajjad knows the bus will move when the bus moves. So keep those things in mind.
What is exactly service providers? What would they do?
What do you mean?
Who will be, because they are not doing this part of it, so I just want to know what's their job. Like, do you mean that where we buy the ticket or package?
The service provider that I'm referring to is the package that you bought from within Nusuk. Each of those packages, if you go back and look at your receipt, it has a name of a service provider. So there's 10 or 11 service providers. I always forget the number that Saudi Hajj Ministry approved, and they're providing your services. Yes, sir.
Is there any fuss about the middle name in the passport working in the Nusuk app and the visa issued?
Look, at this point, as long as your visa is issued, it's issued. First name, middle name. Nusuk did their verification way before you even purchased your package. So when you pass that verification, your responsibility is done. So whatever your visa shows up in your portal, in your account, first name, last name, middle name, whatever it is, just print it and be done with it. Yes, sir.
I get the email from the city about that visa, but my wife in the city. But when I do this,
So from what we know, again, I can talk to the 3 service providers that we are partnering with. Over 90% of visas have been sent out. Whatever is left is coming in the next few days. and that's not counting today and tomorrow. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, inshallah. All the airline tickets similarly have been sent out again for the 3 service providers that I am partnered with. Less than 10% is left, and inshallah that is coming as well. So if it shows approved, you just haven't gotten it, they just haven't gotten, whatever. No. No. If it's not visible, approved is not a visa. Yeah, if you have the link and you can click on see the visa, then of course print it out, please. Yeah. Yes, sister.
What's the cell service like in Mina and Delta and like in Mina especially because easy to communicate with your spouse or like non-spouse communication?
So cell service in Mina Arafah Muzdalifah is perfectly fine. It's very accessible. There's nothing really blocking your signal, so you get all the bars that you need. As far as accessibility to your spouses in Mina, realistically, the male camp is right next to the female camp, right? So if you're Crown Plaza 1, Majano Kapsh, right? My brother's camp will be sharing a wall with the sister's camp. So they're right next to each other. We do provide a cautionary tale. If you want to get a hold of your wife, stand outside the door and yell. Please don't go in the tent. If you want to get a hold of your husband, stand outside the door and yell. Please don't come into the tent. Mina, and a few more things on Mina. That heat that I was talking about earlier, those temperatures, yes, there are plenty of air conditions that are on in Mina. And the first day you walk into Mina, you're like, why is it so cold in here? And everybody starts toying with the air conditions, and they're like 13 feet up. Somehow, some way, like, I'm not exaggerating, I've seen people on the shoulders of other people like playing with it. Because we hide the remotes. Like, at least we're smart enough to hide the remote, but people play with it. It's only cold for a few hours, people. It's only cold in there for a few hours. When the 300 bodies that are supposed to be in the male tent and the 300 bodies that are supposed to be in the female tent show up, and the steam from the anger from each of you kind of boils the room, those ACs don't help. So enjoy the cold. But there are air conditions in Mina. The accommodations of Mina, alhamdulillah, keep in mind, those are the days of Hajj. Mina bathrooms are Mina bathrooms. Your service providers, like we have a team that's constantly cleaning the bathrooms. So there's accessible bathrooms, but the conditions of the bathrooms and the rest of the amenities is as best as it's going to get. So inshallah, keep that in mind.
So what is the situation for like electronics in that?
The question is situation for electronics and the heat. Heat, electronics don't mix. I mean, my phone, when it's on my charger, always, the car is like getting too hot. I remove it. That's kind of all I can tell you as far as the electronics go. Yes, sir.
Why don't I go to sister the quarter of the
Yes, sister.
Okay, so you said it's 3 million people there?
Approximately 3 million Hajjaj, yes.
Okay, and then you said for the Tawaf, they will have set time so it's not so crowded.
Your service provider will have a set time. The ministry kind of coordinates that with your service provider, but every tawaf, as Imam mentioned, is going to be crowded. Every tawaf will be crowded. I highly, highly, highly encourage. I know there is an emotional aspect to doing tawaf in the mataf, in the lowest level. It is far more comfortable on the second and third floor. I have done tawaf. Like I have walked into the haram, looked at the temperature gauge, 127, and still taking the escalators to the roof, people. And I kid you not, it was more peaceful than being downstairs. And the reality is, in your tawaf, as Imam mentioned, you want to focus on your du'as. You want to focus on these things. So the upper circles, yes, they're longer, but they're just giving you more time to make that ibadah, to make those du'as. And it's a lot more peaceful. As far as tawaf goes and sa'i goes, wheelchairs and those things are accessible. You're welcome to bring yours in as well. Those are a couple of things that we did not cover earlier. They also rent them inside of the haram. And there are people you can pay, official workers of the haram that you can pay to push you during tawaf and sa'i as well if you need it.
So, two questions. On your website, they have a...
So we got 2 questions, people.
You have an app for the well. Is that
accepted in Virginia?
We have a link to a will. If it's accepted in Virginia, I don't know. You have to consult a lawyer.
Oh, so the one on your website, you don't know if it's...
I don't know. It's one that is not put out. We have a link to it.
Okay, the other question is, are the spots in Mina assigned in advance, or is first come, first served in terms of the tents?
Inside of the tent?
Inside of the tent.
No, inside of the tent, the mattresses are first come, first served. Last question, I think, because I don't see any more hands, and we're going to wrap it up after that. Arafat has tents, Muzdalifah does not. And Imam Majid kind of said this earlier, and I know he didn't mean to, that, you're either in your tent or you're going to Jabal al-Rahma. Don't go to Jabal al-Rahma, please. That mountain is like smaller than this room. You are asking to get hurt. Stay in your tent, make your ibadah in your tent, stay in the coolness of your tent, keep yourself hydrated. So on the day of Arafah, please stay in your tents. So we're going to wrap it up because the camera is dying, and I don't think we have any questions on the stream. At least we don't know if you have questions. I'll still be here. I can answer some questions. Bilal there in the white though is willing to record testimonials because we've been asked for testimonials for this program. He will be in the musalla upstairs. Ideally, we were asked for 15 to 20 testimonials of this, the Fifth Pillar, Cordoba, Adam Center, but the general Hajj process. If you're willing to do a quick recording of a testimonial, Bilal is going to meet you upstairs in the musalla. We're going to wrap this up. You want to wrap this up, sir? Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. Hope everyone found this very informative. And inshallah, you guys have a very beautiful trip.